A well-written spec doc can save your team a lot of time and headaches. It ensures everyone understands the project's goals and how to achieve them. Neglecting documentation is a direct path to failure because developing from memory simply does not work. Staff members that resist a proper documentation style approach should be trained to use documentation properly or replaced. Documents once created should be updated regularly. Neglecting updating the documents will result in their becoming useless to your team. Do not neglect the creation and correct utilization of documents in your startup, as doing so will lead to problems, defects, and delays. Hi everyone, this is Vivek Shrivastava. Welcome to my channel. Today I have for you a lessons learned video that covers a crucial topic for all IT startups. I will speak about the various specification documents that you will require for your website or app. If you have been following my sequence of videos, you will be at the prototype stage at the very least. It is now time to ensure that the specification documents are in place. Why do I feel that documentation is important? I don't know about you, but I don't have a photographic memory, and neither does anyone on my team. Can a large, complex project be developed entirely from memory? Of course it can't. Team members will require a documented source that they can use as a reference and develop from. And this source will have to be managed and updated in an organized manner with only one responsible person allowed to modify it at any given time. In other words, proper documentation control will have to be followed. There are three main types of specification documents to be considered when developing a software product: the functional specification document, the technical specification document, and the non-functional specification document. I will provide a high-level description of these documents and their importance to your startup. I won't go into the contents of these documents so much, as that information is plentifully available on the net. The first document to consider is the functional specification document. The functional specification document is a comprehensive description of the intended functionality of a system, software, or application. It outlines what the system should do, detailing each feature of the system, the interactions different parts of the system have with each other, and the expected outcomes of these interactions. The functional spec doc serves as a blueprint for developers, designers, and stakeholders, ensuring that everyone has a clear understanding of the requirements and what will be implemented. The functional specification document is typically written by a business analyst, and it should be written first because the stakeholders involved in the development will require it to gain a clear understanding of what is to be built. If you only write one document, this is the one to write. The second specification document is the non-functional specification document, which outlines the non-functional requirements of a system. These are criteria related to the system's performance, usability, reliability, and other quality attributes rather than its specific behaviors or functions. Unlike functional requirements, which detail what the system should do, non-functional requirements describe how the system should perform under certain conditions and its overall quality attributes. Key elements of a non-functional specification document often include performance requirements, reliability and availability, usability, security, and scalability. The non-functional spec doc ensures that the system meets quality standards and performance expectations. This document complements the functional specifications document that was previously written in order to provide a comprehensive description of the system's requirements. The third document to consider is the technical specification document. This provides a detailed description of the technical aspects and requirements of a system, software, or product. It focuses on the how of implementation rather than the what, specifying the technical and engineering details needed to build or support the system. Key components of a technical spec doc typically include aspects of architecture and design, technical requirements, implementation plans and testing, maintenance, and support information. The purpose of a technical specification document is to ensure that all technical aspects of the project are well documented and understood, facilitating smooth development, testing, and maintenance processes. This document is typically written by the developers, and it uses the functional specification document that was previously written earlier as source material. While there are other documents that could be written, these three should be plenty to begin with. In fact, the challenge that you will most likely face is that your team members will not be receptive to creating or even reading the documentation. You may yourself have challenges creating these documents if you do not have a documentation-oriented style. I personally have always felt that documentation is an extremely important part of any development endeavor and had no problem in writing the necessary documentation. Not surprisingly, my work always progressed smoothly with fewer issues and delays. Documentation is your friend if you use it correctly. A common pitfall that many startups fall into is to be undisciplined with their documentation and in some cases to not write any documentation at all. The logic is that because they are a small startup, that somehow excuses them from writing specification documents and gives them license to go about things in an undocumented fashion, relying entirely on memory. Do not make this mistake. You can simplify the documentation if there's less complexity to write about, but you cannot be completely undocumented. Write less detailed, high-level documentation at the very least if you're having challenges in writing very detailed documentation. Another misconception is that the agile development methodology is a document-free approach, and when implementing agile, everything is to be understood via the morning stand-up meetings. Let me emphasize that this is categorically false and documentation is necessary, whatever your development methodology might be, agile or not. A morning stand-up meeting does not substitute for a properly written specification document. Agile methodology does not mean zero documentation. You may find the actual writing of the documents challenging. My advice is to write the documents in iterations. For example, write a first draft of the functional specification document quickly with the overall scope and the main functionality of the system written as headlines. For the second iteration, include some description and screenshots for each headline that represents a certain functionality of your product. Show this version of the document to your team members and then write a third iteration of it to incorporate their feedback, as well as more details of the functionality being developed. At this time, you may wish to include diagrams and flowcharts as well. After this iteration, you will likely have a useful, well-written document that will be the bedrock of your development effort and will result in less defects and wasted time and effort for you and your team. Now for another pitfall that most companies fall into. Once written, do not forget about the document. The document will have to be updated as changes are made to the functionality of your product or service. Be disciplined in doing this and take the time to make updates when necessary. If you skip this step, you will find that the document will become basically useless and your team members will go back to doing things by memory, which simply does not work. This then brings me to team members that are not documentation oriented. After going through all the trouble of writing the documents, there may be some members of your team that want to work without even reading the documents. The reasons for this can vary from reading disorders like dyslexia to old-fashioned laziness. You will have to encourage them to read the documents and use them as references. If they do not do this, you may have to consider replacing them with staff who will work with the documents in a professional manner. If you allow some team members to work without documents, then the other team members will soon do the same, and you will be back to the whole team working without documentation, which does not work. This is a tricky problem with no easy solution, as I have encountered this issue in large multinational companies as well as startups myself. The key really is to hire competent staff that are comfortable with creating and using documentation. To summarize, a well-written spec doc can save your team a lot of time and headaches. It ensures everyone understands the project's goals and how to achieve them. Not writing and not using documentation is a direct pathway to failure. So do not neglect the creation of and the correct utilization of specification documents in your startup. So that's all I have for specification documents. In this video, I wanted to explain the importance of well-written and well-maintained documents for your startup. I hope you found the content useful. Please comment below and provide your feedback. See you all next time. Take care and good luck, everyone.